Armed suspect dies after attack on police in France. Tourists watched in horror as an armed assailant rammed an explosive-laden car into a police van on France's iconic Champs-Élysées on Monday afternoon. A convoy of police vans was traveling along the Champs-Élysées around 3:40 p.m. when an assailant drove a car carrying gas cylinders, handguns, and a Kalashnikov assault rifle into the leading police van. French media reported that the assailant's car struck the van on its right flank and continued to push the van forward before skidding to a stop. The assailant's car caught fire and billowed orange smoke after the collision. The suspect reportedly exited the vehicle with a weapon, but died of his injuries before being able to inflict harm on anyone. The attacker has been identified as a 31-year-old Parisien, and not only was he reportedly known to police, but he was also on France's watch list. The attack is the second on French police this month, after a man used a hammer to attack officers who were patrolling the Notre-Dame cathedral in Paris on June 6th. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews. Lights in the City of Light have been dimmed far too often recently in memory of victims of terror attacks. Hammer-wielding ISIS supporter attacks cop at Notre-Dame. Coming just days after terror attacks in the UK, an ISIS-inspired assault in France on Tuesday is further raising fears in a country already in a state of emergency. France's heightened security measures have been in place since attacks in November 2015 left 130 people dead in Paris. At around 4:30 p.m. on June 6th, a man with a hammer reportedly ran at 3 officers manning the entrance to the Notre-Dame Cathedral. He was heard yelling, "This is for Syria," before attacking one of the officers. After delivering several blows to the head of one of the officers, he was reportedly shot in the chest by another officer. The suspect was not killed. Officials say they later discovered he was also carrying knives and the identity card of an Algerian student believed to be in his 40s. The wounded officer sustained only minor injuries. The landmark Paris Cathedral, with an estimated 900 people inside, went on lockdown immediately following the attack. Policeman and gunman shot dead in Paris attack. A known terror suspect opened fire on French police, killing 1 officer and wounding 2 others before being fatally shot in Paris yesterday. A French Interior Ministry spokesman said a car pulled up alongside a police van in the Champs-Élysées shopping district just before 9 p.m. on Thursday night. The gunman exited the car and opened fire on the van with an automatic weapon. After killing an officer, the suspect tried to run away while shooting at other officers, injuring 2 of them. There was an exchange of gunfire, and the attacker was killed. French authorities said the gunman's identity has been verified, but won't be released because investigations and raids are being carried out. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack through its propaganda agency.
Video of Brahim Abdeslam suicide bomb attack in restaurant surfaces. New CCTV video footage shows the split-second suicide bomber Brahim Abdeslam, the older brother of Paris terror suspect Salah Abdeslam, blows himself to smithereens. On November 13th, Brahim Abdeslam was seen exiting a car just outside the Comptoir Voltaire restaurant. Once inside, Abdeslam walks toward an area where he is surrounded by dining patrons. Unbeknownst to them, Abdeslam has a self-detonating bomb strapped to himself, and he's about to set it off. The terrorist takes one last moment to himself, puts his head down, and unleashes carnage upon the restaurant. As you can see in this footage, it all happens very quickly. Abdeslam is there 1 second and gone the next in a puff of smoke. Though it appeared to be a devastating explosion, luckily none of the patrons or restaurant staff perished in the blast. All escaped with relatively minor injuries, leaving the bomber himself as the only casualty in this particular terror attack.
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews.
80 people killed at Bataclan concert hall during Paris attacks. A series of deadly attacks occurred in Paris on Friday night, leaving at least 120 victims dead. At the Bataclan concert hall, a sold-out show with 1,500 spectators turned into what one witness described as a bloodbath on Friday night. Towards the end of the concert, gunmen entered the concert hall and opened fire. The attack reportedly lasted between 10 and 15 minutes, and 80 victims were killed. More than 100 people were taken hostage during the attack before they were rescued by police. Security forces entered the building just after midnight, and 4 gunmen were killed. 3 of them were wearing explosive belts. Rescue workers responded to the crises, and around 200 people were injured in the attacks across Paris. Attacks also took place around the same time on Friday night at the Stade de France and several restaurants, including Le Petit Cambodge, where at least 14 people were killed. There were attacks on 5 locations across Paris, and a total of 8 attackers were killed, including suicide bombers. 1,500 military personnel were sent out in response to the attacks.